a bigot?
Not at all. Probably the least of anybody you've ever met.
Because?
Because I'm not. I'm a person that has common sense. I'm a smart person. I know how to run things. I know how to make America great again. This is about making America great again.
Yep. All right. I'm really glad he refrained from saying my daughter's Jewish, which he could have said. Joining us now on the Malzberg panel, Brad Hirschfield is here, author of You Don't Have to Be Wrong for Me to Be Right, and president of CLAL, and Jim Hoft, editor of the GatewayPundit.com and investigative reporter. Welcome to both of you. Let me start with you, Brad. Your response to that question, and what is your opinion of Donald Trump in that vein? Is he a bigot? Is he Hitler, as he's being compared to?
Well, let's work backwards. The Hitler analogies are grotesque, and people need to put them away. The truth is, from the left or the right, when you descend to Holocaust analogies, it's almost always because you're making a poor argument. I don't know if he's a bigot. I don't think he's consciously a bigot, but I do think he said something really foolish, and now he needs to figure out how to dig himself out. And his argument that some of his best friends are Muslim is as offensive and foolish as when Christian bigots 50 and 100 years ago would explain their hostility to Jews by saying some of my best friends are Jewish. So is he a bigot? I don't know. That's between him and some higher authority, as they say.
Right.
But he did behave like a fool.
Well, Jim, I would disagree with Brad. I see there. I mean, the man employs and is given to various charities and whatever. I don't see wanting to protect the country. Did he say it the wrong way? Possibly. But it's just, as you pointed out on your website, thegatewaypundit.com, and as is pointed out in Newsmax.com's shocking list, 11 public figures who agree with Trump's Muslim ban plan. Jimmy Carter, for one. Forget Roosevelt. Jimmy Carter wouldn't let any Iranians into the country during the hostage crisis, and he made Iranian students register.
Right. That that won't make any headlines today, but we've seen this in the past in American history. When we had leaders who wanted to protect the country, this is the sort of things they did. Unfortunately, Steve, I think what's going to happen is that we'll probably be hit a few more times, 3, 4, 5 more times in these mass shootings, mass killings by some Islamists before Americans get serious, because it doesn't look right now with the GOP elites and the Democrat Party for sure that they're ready to really focus on what the real issue is here.
And what is the real issue? Security.
That Islamic terrorism.
All right. And Brad?
That we agree about. That's a very serious problem. By the way, that list on Newsmax is full of mistakes. Carter's decision, by the way...
what's the mistake?
Well, I'll tell you a couple. First of all, Carter made a decision about nationals, not a religion. And that is a fundamental difference.
Well, that's not Trump's fault, that it's not just coming from one country, it's coming from many countries.
I'm talking about the article. You said 11 people agree with him. They don't.
Yes, they do.
The article also cites the Kleindienst decision, which went before the Supreme Court.
Yes.
Now, it's true that it does probably mean, in fact, it certainly means, that non-citizens do not have the same constitutional protections as citizens. That's correct. Whether it means they agree with Trump is really silly. But there's no evidence of that. It does not mean that what he said is 100% stupid. I want to be clear that his stupid and offensive remarks arose in large part because the President of the United States went on air and in the midst of a crisis basically said, the same old will keep us safe.
Okay.
And so ironically, one side wants to do business as usual, which will not keep us safe, and the other one wants to blow up the whole thing, the business of America, to keep us safe, which will not work either.
Okay. All right, the headline implies that saying that this is unconstitutional, as the left and the media have done, is wrong, okay? You can't always take a headline literally, but because you can't ask Franklin Roosevelt if he agrees with Trump. But Franklin Roosevelt did something very similar. Jimmy Carter did something very similar. The Supreme Court had ruled constitutionality in Trump's favor. Ann Coulter, you could probably ask. Rush Limbaugh, you could probably ask. They're on the list. And the Supreme and the Congress did pass, we put this up before, Title 8, Section 1182 of the U.S. Code, Jim, that it's perfectly legitimate. The president unilaterally could do what Trump wants to do, and it is not against the law or the Constitution.
You're right. This bogus argument that's being passed around the left today, that because it was a country and not a whole religion, it really doesn't hold weight. And another thing we should point out is that in 2011, Barack Obama also banned Iraqi immigrants from coming in the U.S. at the time. So this happens quite often. It's just, the media doesn't know how to handle Donald Trump. This is the latest way to attack him. And I got to tell you, the people I've talked to in the past week who are just the average Joe on the street, they are crazy about Donald Trump. He's somebody who's speaking for them. They're tired of getting lectured from this president. They're tired of being called a racist and a bigot if they speak their mind. And Donald Trump is speaking for a lot of people out here in the Midwest, I got to tell you.
When we come back, Brad was shaking his head when you talked about the comparison, or the non-comparison, between what Carter did and Roosevelt because of banning a state and Obama compared to a religion. We'll talk about that and more when the panel returns. Don't go away. All right, the panel's back. Brad Hirschfield and Jim Hoft. All right, Brad, you were shaking your head when Jim was talking about what Jimmy Carter did and what Barack Obama did with Iraqis in the case of Obama and Iranians in the case of Carter by not letting them into the country at certain times. And, of course, Roosevelt did when he did. And the difference, of course, is those were nation states and countries, members of countries, citizens of countries, as opposed to Muslims who are a religion. Right. But for crying out loud, there are Muslims from, all kinds, hundreds of countries. And by the way, if you look at the Pew poll from those countries, the Muslims overwhelmingly, I'm talking 80, 70, 60%, want Sharia law as their form of government. Okay,
so we can talk about the Pew poll separately,
with our Constitution.
And we agree that it's incompatible with the Constitution largely. But here's the reason, whether we agree or disagree with what Trump said, it's important not to confuse nation-state status with religion status, because we will end up not being able to fight the war I think we all agree we are in. If we assume that they are the same.
Why would that be?
Because when you have an enemy that's affiliated with a particular nation state, you prosecute the war one way. When you have people who are transnational and affiliated with a subset of a religion and a specific ideology, you have to fight it differently.
Right.
So the Supreme Court, what they would decide on this or not doesn't matter. It's a matter of security to draw this parallel.
You're making Trump's
so that
argument.
people, no,
yes,
I'm making the argument that neither the president nor Donald Trump is willing to engage with the fact that we are in an unprecedented situation, and simply saying things to make you feel good, either artificially safe or playing to people's popular rage, will not help us to address the real security threats we face. I know it's not viscerally satisfying, but that's what it means to go to war in a new context.
With all due respect to Brad, isn't he making Trump's argument, and isn't Trump actually going out on the limb and saying and doing something that needs to be done and said, as opposed to Obama, who's living in make-believe land?
Well, you know what, Steve? I was about ready to stand up and start cheering when Brad was talking right there. I agreed with most of the things he said. Of course, he started to wander off, a little bit in his argument.
He's a wanderer.
No, I just want to politicize it. Going to war is not about making people feel good. It turns out we have a president who wants people to feel inappropriately safe with the best of intentions, and Donald Trump who wants to make people feel inappropriately secure, again, with the best of intentions. Neither of those is going to work at this moment, and it's time to put on our big boy pants and address that.
Well, we could get into what the big boy pants would entail, but I do want to move on. On Jim Hoft's thegatewaypundit.com website, we hijacked some video from there. The story that 150 years ago today, slavery in the United States ended. We now have a black president. And that black president had this to say today on the anniversary. Let's watch.
We would do a disservice to those warriors of justice, Tubman and Douglas and Lincoln and King, were we to deny that the scars of our nation's original sin are still with us today.
And then he went into the justice system, and when you go look for a job, and blah, blah, blah. I got to tell you, Jim, this man has a chip on his shoulder. I would say it about anybody who said that, whether I don't care what color they are, just like his political views, I don't care what color they are. But it just seems that this man has when he says, that's not who we are, I cringe. Because I don't think that Barack Obama speaks for the majority of Americans when he talks about, no matter what the issue, it's not who we are. Because I don't think he, not because of his color, because of his beliefs, I don't think he is who we are or represents what most Americans believe about America.
Absolutely. This was a typical Barack Obama speech. It's a great event. It's a great day in history. It's a great day for Americans to come together. And what does Barack Obama do? He takes a deuce in the punch bowl. He craps all over America and tells us that we're still racist. How despicable. You know, if he had some background in history, maybe he'd have a different, he'd be saying different things. One thing he forgot to mention, too, is that it was his family that actually owned slaves 150 years ago.
All right, Brad, you agree with the president or not?
I don't agree with one thing the president said specifically I think is genuinely problematic. I think he's right that race remains a very serious issue in this country. I think that we have got to still deal with it in ways that we have not. I actually believe that is appropriate and necessary. But I think to invoke original sin, which is a very specific concept, which says that people today bear the same guilt of slave owners 150 years ago, is not right, is not fair, and is actually, even however well-intentioned he may be, not helping us recover from that dark moment, but actually trying to wake it up and pick it a scab. Real healing is going to require, on my view, white people in this country appreciating that racism is more real than they often admit, and black people being willing to heal more than they often
There's black
really
racism as well. We got
There
20
is.
seconds.
But
You
that's
know
not
what
what he
it's
was
all
talking
about
about.
to me, guys? Jim, 10 seconds. Reparations, which is what he would love.
Oh, absolutely. That's where this is all going to. We see that with the Black Lives Matter movement, the way they tore up St. Louis. They're not going to stop till they see reparations.
Absolutely. Guys, great panel. Thank you very much. Give Me 5 is next, folks. Ashley Banfield, I'm coming for you.